Don't open the door, it's them! Out!
Hello everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we are back to going to discuss a film that's both heart-wrenching and captivating. Hotel Mumbai. This movie was inspired by real-life events that shook the world in 2008 when the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in Mumbai was attacked by terrorists. Let's dive deeper into this film and explore why it's so extraordinary. In this film, we are introduced to several characters who play pivotal roles in the story. So let's get to know some of them. Dev Patel as Arjun. Arjun is a dedicated and selfless hotel staff member. He emerges as one of the central heroes in the story, fighting to protect the hotel guests and his fellow staff members from the terrorist threat.
We should try to gather whoever.
Armie Hammer as David. David is an American guest who finds himself trapped amidst the terrorist attack. His character represents the fear and tension experienced by many of the hotel guests in this harrowing situation. Anupam Kher as Chef Hemant Oberoi. Chef Hemant Oberoi is a key figure in the film. He serves as the head chef of the hotel and plays a crucial role in trying to safeguard the guests and his staff during the terrorist attack. Now, let's delve into the portrayal of the terrorist characters in Hotel Mumbai. These characters serve as the central antagonists in the film, and while their actions are undeniably reprehensible, the movie strives to provide a more nuanced perspective by exploring their backgrounds, motivations, and the factors that led them to commit acts of terror. This approach adds complexity to the narrative, shedding light on the psychological and ideological aspects of the terrorists involved in the harrowing events that unfolded at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in Mumbai in 2008. Now, let's review some of the key points that make Hotel Mumbai so impactful. Inspired by real events, Hotel Mumbai is a gripping and emotionally charged film that draws its inspiration from the harrowing and tragic terrorist attack that unfolded at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in Mumbai in 2008. This film goes beyond being a mere work of fiction. It serves as a poignant tribute to the very real and horrifying events that took place during those fateful days. The filmmakers' commitment to authenticity is evident throughout the movie. They meticulously recreate the hotel's interiors and capture the chaos and terror that reigned during the attack. The dedication to portraying the events as accurately as possible serves as a powerful reminder of the resilience and courage displayed by both the victims and the heroes who emerged during this tragic incident. Hotel Mumbai does not shy away from depicting the brutality and senselessness of the attack. By staying true to the actual events, it pays homage to the individuals who lost their lives and the survivors who endured unimaginable horrors. It serves as a tribute to their memory and an acknowledgement of the profound impact this tragedy had on the world. Hotel staff's sacrifice. One of the most poignant and emotionally charged aspects of Hotel Mumbai is the extraordinary sacrifice made by the hotel staff. They emerge as the true heroes in this dire situation, displaying unparalleled bravery and selflessness in their efforts to protect the guests and their colleagues.
Many of you have wives, parents, families at home. There is no shame in leaving.
I've been here 35 years. This is my home.
I'm staying too. I'm staying too.
I'm good, sir.
Me too.
Guest is called, sir.
The film brilliantly captures the hotel staff's dedication to their duty, even in the face of mortal danger. They put their own lives on the line to shield the guests from the terrorists and ensure their safety. This portrayal is a moving testament to the strength of the human spirit and the lengths to which individuals can go when faced with adversity. Throughout the film, viewers are confronted with the moral dilemma faced by the hotel staff. They must choose between their own survival and the safety of the guests, often opting for the latter. This profound selflessness resonates deeply, leaving a lasting impression of the incredible sacrifice made by these unsung heroes. Message of courage and humanity. Beneath the harrowing portrayal of the terrorist attack, Hotel Mumbai conveys a profound message of human courage and the unwavering strength of solidarity. It is a story that celebrates the resilience of the human spirit when faced with the most daunting and horrific circumstances.
I'm just scared. We all are. But to get through this, we must stick together.
The film showcases individuals who, in the face of overwhelming adversity, summon the courage to protect and support one another. It serves as a testament to the extraordinary acts of bravery that can emerge in the darkest hours, reminding us all of the enduring power of humanity's indomitable spirit.
6 people, that's all. We're going. Open the door.
Sir, if they hear us going, we will all die.
They know we are here. If they come back, we will die. If they block the building, we die. If we leave, maybe we die. We take our chances.
In conclusion, Hotel Mumbai is a film that transcends mere entertainment. It is a cinematic tribute to real-life heroes and victims, a testament to the indomitable human spirit, and a powerful reminder that even in the most trying times, courage, unity, and humanity can shine through. This film serves as a poignant and unforgettable homage to those who endured and those who never forgot the events that transpired at the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in 2008. This film is based on hundreds of hours of interviews with survivors and witnesses, according to The Conversation. A memorial monument in 2010 was erected in the lobby at the Taj Palace Hotel to commemorate the victims and fatalities from the 2008 siege. Despite the movie's singular Hotel Mumbai title, the 2008 Mumbai terrorist attacks actually involved two hotels, the Trident Oberoi Hotel and the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel. Okay, that's it right now. It is well worth a watch if you want to know more. With that said, thank you for watching the video and I will see you next time. Take care, don't forget to subscribe, or I will slap you. I love you.
This is my home.